narrating a Star Wars film. During the rebels' advance, staunch anti-communists started disappearing from their ranks, fueling the growing fear that Soviet agents had infiltrated Castro's army and were now getting rid of any potential opposition. Remember, communism is international and therefore wants to take over the entire planet. It's not national socialist, although the degree to which socialists invading other country could, because it's considered nationalist, is another question. But they're willing to impose communist regimes wherever they can find a way to do so in the world. So, of course, Washington, the Washington Times and New York Times and other American newspapers were pro-Castro, as was, of course, the KGB and the Soviet Union and so on. So prior to entering Havana to take power, Fidel Castro wrote a private letter to Melba Hernandez. Quote, "We cannot, for a second, abandon propaganda. Propaganda is vital. Propaganda is the heart of our struggle. For now we use a lot of sleight of hand and smiles with everyone. There will be plenty of time later to crush all the cockroaches together." That sort of reminds me of the Rwanda. They use the phrase cockroaches, right? That they dehumanize and make vile and evil anybody who opposes them so that they can kill them and feel like good people. The Cuban Revolution officially ended when Castro took power on January 1st, 1959, but the propaganda war naturally continued. Fidel Castro, upon entering Havana on January 8th, 1959. "Cuban mothers, let me assure you that I will solve all Cuba's problems without spilling a drop of blood. Cuban mothers, let me assure you that because of me, you will never have to cry." It's appealing to women, not using facts but feels. It's never been done before. Castro quickly closed independent newspapers, executed hundreds of people who worked under the Batista administration. So the day after, promising not to spill a single drop of blood, Castro's forces gunned down over 100 men and boys near San Juan Hill in eastern Cuba, executing them without trial and bulldozing their bodies into mass graves. So I guess you could say, in this sort of Shylock kind of way, he did promise not to spill a single drop of blood, and by gunning down over 100 men and boys, he didn't actually spill a single drop of blood. More like, several, I guess, swimming pools full. Not a single drop. According to The Observer, January 9th, 1959, "Mr. Castro's bearded, youthful figure has become a symbol of Latin America's rejection of brutality and lying. Every sign is that he will reject personal rule and violence." See, you can only be this blind to people if you have a hidden agenda. If your goal is to promote the spread of communism around the world, these are the kind of lies you're going to tell to people. And, newspapermen, your hands stained more with blood than with ink. Che Guevara said, "Judicial evidence is an archaic bourgeois detail we execute from revolutionary conviction." Fidel Castro said, "Legal proof is impossible to obtain against war criminals, so we sentence them based on moral conviction." It'd be terrible if something like that was used to adjudicate disputes around sexual propriety in universities. Good thing we avoided all of that. According to a great writer and author, Umberto Fontova, quote, "Fidel Castro's regime jailed political prisoners at a higher rate than Stalin's during the Great Terror, and murdered more people out of a population of 6.5 million in its first 3 years in power than Hitler's regime murdered out of a population of 65 million in its first 6. Should we just take a moment and simmer in this revolutionary hammer and sickle style of bloodletting? Fidel Castro's regime jailed political prisoners at a higher rate than Stalin's during the Great Terror and murdered more people out of a population of 6.5 million in its first 3 years in power than Hitler's regime murdered out of a population of 65 million in its first 6. See how communists better at killing people than Nazis. But the head of the Communist Party can formally endorse Hillary Clinton. No one will tell you anything. What has changed? On January 24th, 1959, Che Guevara arranged for 3,000 books to be publicly burned. As it turned out, these books belonged to Cuba's Anti-Communist League, a private research organization who had accumulated information on 250,000 Latin American communist agents and KGB contacts. Yeah, it's important to burn the books because Judicial evidence is an archaic bourgeois detail, according to Kage there. So, yeah, you get rid of all of the information that might be used to root out spies. Fidel Castro on April 21st, 1959. I am not a communist for 3 reasons. Communism is a dictatorship, and for my earlier life I have been against dictatorships. Furthermore, communism means hatred and class struggle, and I am completely against such a philosophy. And finally, because communism opposes God and the Church, I say this to set your minds and spirit at rest.